All right.
whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be disseminated forever. All right, so let's go back into here. Yes, I know that I presented it to everyone. So listing process. So we will just quickly jump back over the first piece again, where we're doing the pre-marketing or the pre-listing package that we're going to send over to them. And in the pre-listing package, we're going to have information like your 20-point marketing plan. If you have that, if you don't have that, I can get you a copy of that as well. The 20-point marketing plan. So it gives you gives them a basic idea of what your marketing proposal is going to be, as well as you can put a sample copy of all the listing paperwork in there that they're going to need to list the house. So that's always a good thing to have ready for them to start with. And it's not even a bad idea to have a copy of your sales paperwork as well, because this is all going to, especially in today's market, probably go fairly quickly. So putting together your listing packet or your pre-listing packet with all that information, and going by before you're going to do the listing or before the marketing proposal, going by and dropping it off, it gives you a chance to have that quick conversation with the person that you're going to be meeting with. If they happen to be home, you can have a quick conversation with them and just confirm that you have the listing appointment for the next day. If they're not there, you can drop it at the door and then send them an email or a text or something and say, hey, I just wanted to confirm that we're still good for tomorrow at X time or the next day, whatever it is. And I also left you a pre-listing packet at your door that's full of a bunch of information. Please look at it and have your questions ready for me when we meet. So that gives them a chance to pull all that stuff together before you get together with them, so that they can have all their questions and everything and ready for them. So then preparing for the listing presentation. So you conduct your analysis, your CMA, creating your marketing plan, creating your paperwork, and then you rehearse your presentation. If you do not have a listing presentation, which, when you're brand new in the business, you don't have one, there are several proposals in here. I'm going to jump over to one real quick here. So if you're doing luxury, there's this luxury listing presentation that's in here that you can pull up the luxury listing presentation. So it's a very nice piece here. You can print it off. You can sign it, but this is just your canned listing presentation. So if you don't have one, this is a great piece to get yourself started, but you should always kind of custom create your own marketing proposal for somebody, your listing presentation for them.
And like you said, rehearse it.
Rehearse it. Yes, rehearse it over and over again so that you're very comfortable with the flow and how things go. Listing presentations, marketing proposals, whatever you want to call them, it's more about the conversation that you're having with the person and becoming, getting that relatability to them and finding commonality with them and understanding what their concerns are and helping alleviate the concerns that they have.
And what their goals are.
Right. Exactly. What their goals are. So for lots of people, their goal isn't just to get the highest and best price. Right. It's about the whole process of it. It's, I want to make sure that, I'm able to stay in the house for 2 weeks after close so that I can get everything taken care of, which, by the way, we don't like when we start talking about post-possession agreements are not fun. No. They are really not advisable because there's so many things that can happen that can go bad in a post-possession agreement. So we try not to do those. But in today's market, where the seller is in control, sometimes it's really hard to not honor what their request is. So going through and getting your pre-marketing or your luxury listing presentation together, or there's also one here that's just the regular listing presentation. This one I really like. This regular listing presentation is really nice as well because it's completely customizable. You can put your name in, your date in, you can do all this stuff online, and it will pre-fill out a lot of the information inside the presentation. And just because you fill this out doesn't mean you have to use every page. There may be pages that you like or that you don't like in here. So maybe you don't want to talk about market activity. Maybe you don't want to talk about the consequences of overpricing model. I would make sure that that's one of the big pieces I like to have in there, is to make sure that people understand what happens when you overprice your property. What affects the market of value on your property? What things do affect price, what things don't affect price. Because people will think, well, I put $100,000 worth of upgrades into my house should be worth $100,000 more. Like, well, that's not always the case. It depends on what you put your money into.
And how much you've used it.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like this piece here. It says some factors have no effect on the current value of your property, what you paid for it, the proceeds you need, people's opinions, and how much you paid for your upgrade. Those have nothing to do with your price of your property. What we have no control over are the physical qualities of the house, market conditions, the competition, and the location. All the other stuff we have control over. So list price and recommendations, you analyze what's sold, what's for sale, what failed to sell, which is, I think, is a big piece in there as well. So that way you know what failed to sell. You can usually pinpoint that back to price. Somebody overpriced the property and that's why it failed to sell. You know, it's usually somebody that's trying to just test the market, so they'll throw it in at a high price and put it on for, you know, a month or two and then pull it off the market because it didn't sell. So I'm not going to go through all of these things here, but this is a great little listing presentation. Again, get yourself familiar with this, play around with it, and make it yours. That's the big thing, is making it yours. There's even a section here at the end. For newer agents, maybe the resume isn't the most important piece to you because you really don't want people to know that, you know, I've only been in business for a week, a month, a year, something like that. So maybe the resume isn't the biggest piece of it. Maybe instead of using the resume, you use a resume for the company, use the resume for the office. And you can always talk about that. You know, your team is everybody here at the office. Your team is Michelle, it's me, it's Charlie, it's everybody else that you have that helps you with your process. So when you start talking to potential clients, always talk about your team. You know, my team has, you know, over 100 years worth of experience that, you know, we can tap into. Those kind of things. So it doesn't make you sound like you're brand new, and people will have a little more trust if they know that you actually have some experience that you're tapping into. And it sounds also better to have a team because together everyone achieves more.
And even though I have been doing real estate for quite a while, I always say my team.
Yeah. And your team can be your lender. It can be, you know, the people who help with you with marketing. It can be your title rep. I mean, those are all part of your team. Those are all people that help you with your business. So they're all part of your team. Team doesn't necessarily mean these are people who are on my real estate team who we share commission with. That's not everybody that's on your team. Any feedback on that from my folks online? Good. All right. All right. Diane did make it on. She's here.
Oh, there. I've been trying to unmute.
There you go. I was wondering where you were at. And it was like, Sharon's got to have things to say.
Yeah. I don't really use the word team, but I say we all the time.
Mhm.
And instead of me and I, it's always we. We will make sure that we get this taken care of, and we're going to get this taken care of. We're going to do that for you, and we're going to do that for you.
Right. Good. I like that. All right. So let's go back into this event material. So you've got these in here. And there's even like this listing process script video. So you can tap into this stuff on your own and go in here. Rick has done some great little videos. I think this one's actually like a 3-minute video on the listing process where Rick talks about the process. And again, if you go to his success series, day 4 is where he goes through this listing process piece of it. So this is like a good portion of his day 4 and what he goes through. All right, so back to event material. Go back through the listing process. First visit, preparing for rehearsing your presentation. Your second visit is presenting the home selling proposal to the client. So touring the property, conduct the listing, your marketing proposal, listing presentation, ask for the listing, and complete paperwork. So that's step 3. So now when you go into, this will go into more steps about how you do each one of these 3 steps. It goes into more detail about it. So if we go to the next page, your first visit, setting and doing the initial proposal. Here's some verbiage that you can use. By the way, I'd like to stop by before our 7 o'clock appointment to gather some information and help me prepare the marketing plan. It's not necessarily that you both be home. It should only take about 20 to 30 minutes of your time. With 2 o'clock work all right. You may be able to skip this step if you've already visited the property as part of your for sale by owner or an expired listing effort. Gathering information. In order to prepare for the second visit, you'll be gathering information with 2 key areas: information about the seller, understanding their expectations, communicating with them. How important is regular communication with your real estate professional? What information is important? How often do you want to be contacted? And what's your preferred method of staying in touch? Those are great questions. Some people are texters, some people are emails, some people are only phone calls. Understanding that right straight up front is going to be very key to helping you stay in good communication with your client and meeting their expectations. Motivation. Why are you considering selling? Time frame. Is there a certain date you want to be out by? How flexible are you? Do you need assistance with relocating to where you're going to be going? Decisions. Are there any other individuals who will be involved in the sale decision? Can I please have permission to speak with them? Maybe you're talking to somebody who is the estate person, and they're going to have to refer to somebody else to get the final approval on it. So knowing all the players that are going to be involved is good. Price. Do you have a specific expectation as to the selling price of your property? If so, what did you base this figure on? Do you anticipate on a certain amount of proceeds from it? Marketing plan. Are there specific activities you expect to see included in your marketing plan? Some people are very versed at what they are expecting you to do for them. They say, I want an aerial photo. I want the drone footage of the property. I want videos done. I want to make sure that we have an open house at least twice a week. Those kind of things. That some people will have very specific things that they want you to include in their marketing plan. So that's another good question to ask. Previous home selling experience. Have you sold a house before, and how many, and how recently? Again, that gives you an idea as to how experienced they are with the process. And if they're very experienced, you're going to be able to skip over a lot of this. If this is their first time that they've sold a house in 40 years, you're going to have to walk them through every single step. Positive experiences. What were the most positive features of your previous home selling experience? If you never sold a house before, what would make it a positive experience? What are your concerns? What are your expectations? Then gathering information about the property, touring the property, going through it, appreciating your property. Be appreciating your property page is located and identifying the goals in the section. What do you feel are the most appealing features of the property? What does this property have that differentiate it from other similar properties? What changes or enhancements would you suggest to make your property as saleable as possible? These are all great questions, because if they know that there are things that need to be updated or upgraded in your home, that may be a great opportunity if you start talking about Apex and bringing that up as an option.
I apologize for interrupting, but asking what are your expectations is key. Because you never know that what they one of them is price and timing and where are you going to be,
right? What are their true motivations for wanting to sell? What is it that you? Well, I need to net $140,000 out of this house. That's great, but that has no bearing on what your house is worth. That's great to know. Now they've set an expectation, so that if it's going to be, if you can run a net sheet on them, and you can figure out if you're somewhere in the ballpark, and if you're not anywhere near the ballpark, you may be wasting your time, because if that's the number they have in their head, getting them past that can sometimes be very difficult, unless you can show them specifically on paper with numbers.
Right.
This is what we are looking at. And then again, it goes back to their motivation. Why are you selling? And if it's because I have to sell, and they wanted 140, that's great, but I still have to sell regardless if I can't get 140. That's good to know that what their motivation is, and if they're willing to continue if they can't hit their number. Do you have any special terms and conditions regarding the sale of the property I should be aware of? Example, items of personal property that are to be excluded, like the chandelier in the living room. Is that going to stay with the house? The beautiful curtains that are on the window, are those going to be staying, or are those going to be going? So those are questions that you want to get ahead of time, so that when you go get ready to do your marketing proposal and everything else, you'll know that there is certain verbiage that you're going to have to use when you're putting together your listing and putting it in the MLS. You're going to say, it's always best if there are personal property items that are not going to convey with the sale, to make sure that they understand it's going to be best if we remove those before we get the house on the market. We don't want somebody to come in here and fall in love with that chandelier and that be the reason they want to buy the house, and then they discover they're not going to get it. So it's always best to have personal property items removed before you actually list the house. Are you aware of any problems or concerns regarding the property or the neighborhood that will need to be disclosed to potential buyers? Again, you're going to give them, I would always give them a copy of the seller's property disclosures before we even do our listing presentation, so they can read through that and take a look at it and kind of get an idea of some of the questions that are there. And again, those are the questions that they're going to ask you when you go over your marketing proposal for them. You know, they may have questions through that piece, but inevitably it's the seller always asks you, well, should I disclose that we had a water leak under the sink 17 years ago? Yes, you should, but you should also let them know that it's been fixed and it hasn't had any problems for the last 17 years. And so yes, always, and you always want to disclose. If they have a question of whether they should disclose something or not, the answer is always yes. Disclose. All right. Identifying exclusions. As you tour the property, look for personal property that could be excluded or replaced, like chandeliers, kitchen appliances, workbenches, hanging lamps, sheds, bookshelves, satellite dishes and equipment, ceiling fans, drapes, curtains and blinds, mirrors, pool equipment, patio and lawn furniture. I know, Sherry, you have had a situation where at closing there was a mirror that was supposed to be that was not supposed to go for sale, correct?
Yeah, well, we were thinking we were doing a cash deal, then it turned into a loan, and the lender didn't like the mirror in there, and the seller was not happy, so we couldn't actually remove it from the contract. We had to figure out a way to keep it in the contract so that they wouldn't take it away.
Yeah. It's always better if you can get those things addressed up front so that you don't have to try to deal with them as they come up. And sometimes you'll ask them the question and they won't give you the right answer anyway until you get in the middle of the transaction. And there's sometimes it can't be helped, but it's always nice to be prepared and ask those up front so that you can maybe avoid those issues down the line.
I know. I have a penthouse, and he said he wanted to go ahead and include the furniture. And then when we were talking, like a few days later, he goes, "Oh, but not that clock." Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's good to know. Good to know that the clock was the one thing out of the whole house. You have $100,000 worth of furniture, but that $500
Right.
clock is the one that you. That's
All this Copenhagen furniture, but the clock you want to keep. Okay.
Yeah. You never know what's important to people. All right, so inspect the exterior, the roof, the driveway, exterior material and condition, yard fencing, curb appeal, and foundation. Not that you are going to be expected to know if there are issues, but if there are, very visible issues that you can see. If you can look at the roof and see that it's wavy and that there's shingles missing and everything else, you're pretty aware that there's probably going to be something that, you're going to have to maybe do some deductions, or you may have to offer some credits or something like that when it comes time to put this in the market. Gathering additional information, legal owners and names, legal description, taxes, pending assessments. I'm not going to go through all that, but there's a ton of stuff in there that you need to go through. Concluding your first visit, sellers may want to know the price you would recommend for the property and ask on that first opinion. Most owners have their own opinion of the price that might be higher than market. Save pricing discussions for when you do your marketing proposal. Your initial visit is not when you want to talk about any of that. You want to go home and digest everything and then be able to come up with your marketing proposal and your comps and come up with what you think the actual price is going to be. Rather than giving an off-the-cuff pricing opinion, sellers will ask your opinion of price. You might say, I could give you an off-the-cuff opinion, but that really wouldn't be fair. Property is more than a gut feeling. When I get back to the office, I'll do the paperwork or do the research. I'll also prepare and complete a residential marketing evaluation that compares your property with others that have sold and are for sale. In addition, I'll create a marketing plan to help you accomplish selling your goals. Does that sound reasonable? Most people are going to be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. They're going to drop it. They're not going to want to force you to give them a number at that point. Confirm your listing appointment and say, now that I've got all the information, I'll go get all this stuff done. I'll return and we'll meet at 7 o'clock tonight, presenting this information and answering any questions that you have. It'll probably take about an hour of your time. So that's great. If you can get a listing presentation / marketing proposal done in an hour, you're smoking. That's something that I've never been able to get it done in an hour. I always schedule an hour and a half. Because it's going to take me the first half hour just warming up and getting things going. And then from that point, then you can kind of get into your marketing proposal and everything. But you don't want to just walk in the door and sit down, open up your laptop and just fire right into it. You want to kind of ease your way in. So your pre-listing packet is a collection of leave-behind material that will help explain the services and the selling process. It's to be reviewed prior to the second visit. The packet could be delivered as a hard copy, electronic documents put on a CD or DVD drive, or sent electronically via a link on your website or shared through an online document platform. So you can figure out how you want to present, how you want to give them the documents. But you can always send that stuff through the email, something like that as well. Pre-listing packet material, it gives you a list of the things that can be in your pre-listing packet. Pre-listing packet summary goes through, and then you can make some notes on that. All right. Preparing for the listing presentation, conducting your research, doing a market analysis. That says consult with your manager or accountability coach regarding standards used by your company for determining comparable properties. So that's going to be another class that we will do again after this listing presentation class. So next week, bless you. Next week is the 9th. We will be able to do one on the 9th. I'll still be in town. The following week I'll be out of town. But next week on the 9th. So why don't we plan on this for next week on the 9th? Let's do the CMA class. And I will show you how I do my CMA. I will gladly take some pointers from other people who are, experienced at doing this as well. People like Bart or for I know Sherry, you've done a bunch of CMAs, and Marlene, I know you've done a bunch of CMAs. Most of you guys have done a bunch of CMAs, and I'm always happy to hear how you do things, because everybody does them a little bit differently. So it's always nice to get ideas from other people as to how they do their market analysis as well and come up with their pricing.
And in this market, it's much different.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with someone a little earlier today and talking to him about real estate and our market. And it was, I still say, if you can't adapt to change, you need to find another business to be in, because this market just is constantly changing, which causes the industry to ever change. It's just always learning something new. All right. So
I know we used to look back a year, and then it was 6 months, and then 3 months, but now it's like 2 weeks.
yeah, what is pulled in the last 48 hours? Okay. Selecting comparable properties. We're not going to go through all this today. Like I said, we'll start that next week. So doing your CMA is a good piece of it. And then there are several different ways that you can insert your market analysis. You can do your CMA and insert your comparables into your marketing proposal. You can either print off a page and insert it, or there's several different methods that you can insert your properties into your CMA. CMA graphs. There's fun different stuff that you can do there. Creating your marketing plan. Again, if you guys are not aware of the 20-point marketing plan brochure, come and see me. I will give you a copy of that before you but there's a 20-point marketing plan for standard listings and one for luxury listings as well. So because luxury listings have different things that you need to focus on. So you have one for each one of those. Don't take that as the be all end all for what your marketing proposal is, though. Those are just specific 20 points that you can point to and say, these are all things that we will do to make sure that your house gets sold. But there may be some other things that you want to tweak and throw in there as well. But then there's also points in here. Installing lockbox, yard sign, preview with BHHS professionals, promote other sales professionals at the board of realtors, real estate professionals review, advertise in the paper. Who advertises?
I don't know anybody who reads it.
Open house, if they want them. There's a lot of sellers that don't want an open house on their property, so it's always good to know those things. But we always have that in there as one of the things that we can do, because we're always got people that are looking to do open houses because they're a great way to try to get new business.
Training?
Completing your paperwork.
Does it involve marketing? And the VAC.
Not really.
Goodbye.
Okay.
There you go.
So completing your paperwork, complete an estimate of net proceeds sheet. If you do not know how to do one of these, again, that will be something that will be another class that we'll throw together, and that's a quickie. We can do that with a couple of different methods. There's First American Title has a great piece on their on their website, and I'm trying to remember. Is it cost first? Costs first. I think it's costs first. Is the site.
Yeah.
I'll double check on that, but or you can talk to First American yourselves and find out what the website is, which if you have not met with somebody from one of the title companies, you probably should, and sit down and chat with them a little bit. That's something that I would highly recommend, is having meetings with lenders, title companies, home warranty people, get to know them really well and have so that you understand who it is that you need to talk to when you have certain needs. And they're great at helping you with marketing, so you can talk to them. But First American, I'm pretty sure it's Costs First is the name of the website. You can go in and you can plug in and you can do a net sheet for a seller, one for a buyer, and so you can have different. If you're doing a refinance, you can do them on that as well. So you can just do a nice net sheet for them so that you can give them an estimate as to what their possible proceeds would be. You're probably not going to know what their payoff on their loan is, but it can tell you what the net is going to be, and then they can figure out minus what their cost is on it.
I believe that all of the title companies, when you do a cost analysis or a net sheet, it says on there, it's printed on there that this is only an estimate and is not
a guarantee of what you will net. Yes.
So if it doesn't, please make sure you
make sure that you definitely are conveying that to the client. This is an estimate. This is not a guarantee of what you're going to make. There's a lot of different factors that will go into play before we come to closing.
It is costs first, Todd.
It is costs first?
Yes, you're correct.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
All right. So then you can also go through your listing paperwork and fill in your listing paperwork as much as you can. The more nearly complete the agreement is, the easier it will be to go through when you ask for signatures. Fill out any referral paperwork if there was somebody that was referred the business to you as well. Consult with your manager or accountability coach regarding required paperwork accompanied by the signed listing agreement, and review the process prior to your appointment. So that's another thing that we'll go over is what paperwork do you need once you get your login information for Transaction Desk. You and I will sit down and we'll go through and set you up with your templates. So a template for a seller and a template for a buyer with all the required document that you're going to need for each one of them. And I'll help you go through and pre-fill out a lot of the stuff. So when you go to do a listing presentation, it's like that. You put the information for the buyer or for the seller and the information for the property in, and most everything else is populated in. So it makes it, you can do your listing paperwork in minutes to get it done and get it ready to go. Then it says, rehearse your presentation. At this point, you've conducted all the necessary research regarding the seller, the property, and the market. You've gathered your resources, completed the market analysis, and prepared a customized marketing plan. The next step is to prepare and rehearse your presentation. So prepare for seller objections. Your first visit was useful in uncovering potential objections. Use this opportunity to prepare your responses. Some stated concerns may include, we want to think it over first. Another company said they would list it for blank. Will you reduce your fee? We'd like to talk about other companies before making a decision. We have a friend in the business. Another sales professional said they could get us more for the sale of our property than you're indicating. We can't sell it unless we get blank. Review the quick start essential course, objections and overcoming objections, and how to overcome objections in here. Preparing the seller for the seller's psychological needs. Psychological needs are a big part.
Take Prozac.
Take Prozac and alcohol. It works out real well.
Give them Prozac and alcohol.
All sellers have specific selling objectives that must be met and fall into 4 categories. Plan in advance on how your presentation will address these needs. If they need to get the most money for their property, virtually all sellers want the most money and they can get for their property. This is so often important. It shadows other concerns. However, you must not let them lose sight of the other objectives. to sell the house in the least amount of time. Sellers want their property sold in a small time frame. This goal can conflict with their desire to get top dollar because sometimes the higher price takes longer to get the property to sell. To sell with the least amount of inconveniences. Sellers do not want numerous strangers walking through their property at odd hours while the property is on the market. They feel out of place and they want the process to end as soon as possible. And that is so true.
Yeah.
People are just like, I just want it over. I just want this to be over. I don't want anybody coming to my house anymore. So owners want to close on time, get their check, and move smoothly into their next house. Work with the right sales professionals. Owners tend to select a sales professional based on emotional criteria. They prefer to work with a person they like and trust. While this is important, they must also be assured that all the details will be handled and the sale of their property is in competent hands. So rehearsing your dialogue, spending some time going over the contents of the tutorial. Presenting your home selling proposal, canned, winged, and planned. The canned presentation that delivers the complete listing presentation, page by page, beginning to end, the benefits. You'll never forget what to say because whether the seller wants to hear it or not, it will be covered. The disadvantages is the presentation is impersonal, takes longer, and can be very boring. The winged presentation requires little preparation, little to no visuals. The presenter shoots from the hip. The benefits, it doesn't take long to prepare and can be more interactive. The disadvantages is because there's little preparation. There's a strong possibility that information will be overlooked or mishandled. So if you're shooting from the hip and winging it, you're probably going to miss some key issues that are probably going to get uncovered later on. Or if you don't get the listing, you will have discovered later on there were things that you missed that you didn't go over. The plan method is the best method because it's for all sales professionals and the type of delivery is focused throughout the module. The plan presentation takes into consideration desires, needs, and expectations. It's designed to be more interactive than a one-way sales pitch. The benefits is you'll cover the information that's important to the seller at a point that's meaningful. The disadvantages is it does take longer to prepare. You earn your money. So going through the second bit of the listing presentation, take a quick tour of the property again with the decision maker. Go to the kitchen table, break the ice, conduct the listing presentation / marketing proposal, sign the listing agreement, and complete the details. You tour the property again. You've already kind of toured the property before. Hopefully, if you've done your pre-listing, drop by. But if not, then you're going to go through the house. Have them lead you through the house and show you the features of their house. One of the things that I always like to talk to people about is, when you bought this house, what was it that made you buy this property? What was it that you loved about this house? Because chances are those are going to be things that somebody else is going to love about the house as well. So it gives them a chance to show off their property. Most people are pretty proud of their place and they want to show it off a little bit. And it gives them a chance to show it off and to give you the ideas as to what they liked and didn't like. Go to the kitchen table. There's probably no better place in the house to give your formal marketing proposal than the kitchen table. It's generally the center of activity for the family and represents a place where everyone can be comfortable. Genuinely where you're going to go. The living room, sitting around on the couch in the living room is probably not the best place.
Or the bedroom.
Or the bedroom is definitely not the place. Or the bathroom. Break the ice. Don't dive directly into the presentation. Spend some time getting to know the sellers and allow them to ask questions. Pay compliments when appropriate. Build rapport and establish trust when you're ready to begin the listing presentation by saying, our time together is important. What would you like to accomplish as the result of tonight's meeting? What would they like to accomplish? Do they just want to get information or they want to get their property listed? They'll get a lot of times, they'll give you the answer right there. They say, well, we want to get this on the market. Okay, great. So now you know if you give them the right marketing proposal at the end of the night, they're ready to go. So you can listen to what they say and get the answers that you want. Allow the seller to talk freely about what's important to them. The responses can include things like recommended listing price, what your plan is to market the property, because you've already given them some of that stuff, some of your marketing information, and information about you and your company. They should ask about you, and they should ask about the company, and they should ask some of those questions. If not, you can kind of prompt them with those. I appreciate you sharing your concerns, and I'll be sure to cover all of them in our time together. And then you can go into your presentation, conduct your marketing proposal, identifying your goals, going through everything, key points, establishing your pricing strategy, I think it's always, in today's market, it's not as big a deal because like we say, everything's gonna sell right now. If you price it close to the right price, it's gonna sell quickly and you don't have to worry about it. But once this market starts to turn and soften a little bit again, we're gonna have to start thinking about how do we get people to reduce their list price? How do you ask for a reduction in list price? So the best way to do it is talk about it up front when you're getting ready to list their property. Say, you know what, we're going to start off at this price. I think we might be a little aggressive in what our pricing is. We might be reaching for the stars a little bit here, and I'm hoping that we get it. Nobody wants you to sell it more than I do at that price. So hopefully we get it. But if not, I just want you to be open that, after a few weeks, if we're not getting any activity, if we haven't gotten any offers by then, we may need to look at reducing price. How do you feel about that? And then kind of get their feeling on it. But you've opened the door right straight up front with them. So when you come back a few weeks later and you know it's overpriced and you're not getting any activity on it, it's going to be a little easier to go back and say, hey, remember when we talked the first time we met? Guess where we are? We're at that point where we need to talk about maybe we need to drop a little bit in price. And they're going to know. They're going to know that that's what's going to happen.
And I've done that in this market. I said, look, these are the comps. This is what I suggest. The seller gave me a price they wanted to list at, and we ended up selling over the list price that they wanted. But I did open up that conversation first.
Yep. Even in today's market, it's not a bad idea to still continue with that dialogue and have that up front because you don't know.
Yeah.
And if anybody tells you right now that they know what the property is worth, they're lying. Nobody knows what a property is worth in this market right now. It's crazy. Preparing your property for sale, then you can go through the things that will help them get their property for sale. Key pages including, you are the key player in the home selling team. How will buyers see your property? Show off your property every time. Help the seller see the property from the buyer's point of view. A property's appearance can have a dramatic effect on how quickly it sells. Sellers should remain impartial and open-minded. That's a good job. The property is just like any other product for sale. It needs to be packaged correctly in order to attract potential buyers. It's really hard especially if you've got somebody who's very proud of their property and they've put their heart and soul into a place and now they're leaving it. Sometimes it's very hard for them to be objective and to step back away from it and look at it from a non-emotional point of view. And that's our job, is to try to help them get to that point and help point that out. Say, you know what, it's your house. I know you love it. And I know you put a lot of time, effort, and into it. And I'm hoping we can find somebody that appreciates it as much as you did. But, just be prepared that people are going to be looking for flaws. They're going to look for flaws in your house because they're going to want to get their price for the house, not your price. So helping people with those pieces up front can be very, very helpful for you down the line. So going through who we are, our home selling process, key points to bring out, the seller can have confidence in your abilities, benefits of a full service real estate company. These are things that you really need to bring in because they are going to help you defend your commission when it comes down to the time at the end where they're saying, well, my friend said they'll do it for 4%. Like, okay, well, your friend is not going to do these things and they're not going to net you this much more money. Yes, they will do it for 4%, but you're going to net less at the end of the table. And so being able to defend your commission is probably a big piece for it. Once you get done with the process, the final step in the presentation is to ask for the listing. So the great ways to do this is, can I schedule an office preview for this week or would next week be better? Those are going to be some questions that are going to tell you whether or not they're going to be ready to list with you, and whether, because if they're like, yeah, we want to get this, and you're like, okay, good. So they're going to be ready to sign the paperwork at that point. I'm excited about the opportunity to represent you in the sale of the property. Should we go ahead and put the sign up tonight, jokingly, because you're not going to get the sign put up tonight, but should we go ahead and put the sign up tonight? But you can make those light jokes about it and but again, you can gauge their reaction as to how they answer that, as to where you go with your next step. How do you feel about what we've discussed and what would you like to do next? With your authorization, I can start working for you tonight. I look forward to working for you in the marketing of your property. In your opinion, is this the type of service you expect when looking to get your property sold? Those are some great questions, because if they have any other objections, if they have any other comments or concerns, they're going to bring them out at that point. So those are just a few things that you can throw into it. Complete the details with the seller's agreement. The The final step will be to complete the details, complete the listing agreement, fill out the paperwork, leave a bound copy of this home selling proposal with the seller as a reminder of your visit and the benefits of selecting you as their sales professional. There's a process of working effectively with sellers. The first visit gives an opportunity to discover information about the seller and the property. The preparation step gives you the opportunity to customize your home selling proposal and market evaluation. And then when presenting the home selling proposal, the seller will see and hear the specific steps you've created to accomplish the goals of marketing. With proper preparation and practice, you'll never lose a listing with a prepared sales professional. So, pretty cool. That pretty much takes care of the rest of it here. I'm going to jump over to it, another piece. Before you guys jumped on, I shared with Faye here some of the things that I have done. In getting myself organized, some of the organizational things that I do is we have a Google Drive. In your Google Drive, you can create folders in your G Drive. In your Drive, I've created one that's called Processes and Systems. You should have processes and systems for everything you do, whether it's dealing with a buyer, whether it's dealing with a seller, whether it's getting yourself organized. For me, I've got coaching process and marketing checklist for listings. So there's things like that that you can do. You should always have processes available. So the seller process doc is the first one that I pulled up here. And I went through, and it's like I was telling Faye, this is a living, breathing document that is ever evolving and changing. I'm constantly putting new stuff in here. I haven't gone back in here for a while, so there may be stuff in here that really is not as relevant now. But once I get a listing, this is my process, is the things that I do. Once I've got the listing, I create a pre-market post for the VAC. I create transaction in SkySlope and upload all the documents that I've got. Order the sign-up form, send that to Michelle. I schedule a photo shoot. I've got a couple of the ones that I use here, Reflecting Walls, Lister, Sister, and Virtuance. If you have your other photographers that you use, that's fine. But those are the ones that I know that I've used that I like. Complete the MLS listing with photos and HOA if needed, and activate when agreed. When agreed means when I have agreed with the seller when we are going to go active. So it will go active once we do an agreement. You guys have known me, and you know what the last line that I always put in the exclusive right to sell form is in that open section. Listing to become active in the MLS upon mutual agreement between seller and listing agent. So once we agree that it's going to go live, that's when it goes live. That authorizes me to hold it back if they have given me seller's disclosures or an insurance claims report, or if they haven't gotten some documentation to me. It authorizes me to withhold that back and say, I'm not going live with this until you get that stuff to me. And it also authorizes them to say, hey, I'm not quite ready. I want to make sure the yard gets mowed and the landscape is done and all that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that that gets done before we go live. Great. Mutual agreement. We're going to come together and say, yep, now we're ready to go live. So I think that's kind of a nice piece to have in your listing agreement. Create color flyers. You can create your color flyers. I don't have it in here as to where you can create them, but you can create them in the VAC. There are several places in there, or you can get a hold of Ashley from Prosperity. She will gladly create color flyers for you as well. Once you get those, you can order flyers out of the VAC, and they will send the color flyers. I think they send the order to Michelle, and Michelle will print them off out of the machine and back, so you get some nice, pretty color flyers. Create a post for Instagram and Facebook using the VAC. So when you're in, I'm just going to go into here real quick, and I'll show you. I got to switch this over to Agent so that I can get to that page. All right, so in marketing, you've got a Ready Promo dashboard. So I don't have any listings right now, but if I did, I've got some sold ones in here. But if I did have a listing under here, like this one under here, you can email your listing. You can order postcards. You can view the listing on the agent website, single property website, but you can do a social media post. So if I want to create a social media post, I do that, and it kicks over. Oh, it does this every once in a while on mine. It's when I'm on a different computer, it does this. But it creates a social media post. I can share this on LinkedIn. I can share it on Pinterest. I can share it on Facebook. I don't know why it does that on here, but yeah. Okay. But you can do that. Ready Promo dashboard. So you can do that from here. There's all kinds of different, marketing things that you can do from here.
Hey, Todd, do you know where we do a just sold of our own listings postcard?
Right here. Order just sold postcards.
Oh, just sold postcard from Deluxe.
Deluxe or Express Docs, either one. And they will actually even, for those of you who don't know, they will actually even mail them out for you. So if you give them, if you say, I want to do a radius of 200 houses around my listing, they will create that 200 houses around your listing and they will actually even mail them out for you.
And then there's a charge for that?
Yes, there's a charge for it. Yeah, whenever you do the postcards, there is going to be a charge for the postage mailing of them. And I think there's a minor charge just to creating them. I don't remember what it is. But again, if you talk to some of our partners like Ashley, or if you talk to one of our title partners, sometimes they will help you create those as well and help you get those out, help defer some of those costs for you as well.
So last question. So how long can you, after you've closed, will that show up still?
This one,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of when that one, Calabar closed. It closed in October, and we're 4 months later, 5 months later now, and it's still showing up here.
And
So-
that's in your Ready promo dashboard?
Yes, marketing, ready promo dashboard.
Oh, I just looked this morning. I only had 3 that were active. Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, take a look at that again. If there may be, if you're having trouble with that, and Sherry, you're the problem child when it comes to this stuff. So, I don't know.
I break things, that's all.
I don't know how it is that you do it, but you tend to break things very well.
Sherry, you better have a good basket for the raffle.
I missed that. What'd you say?
Bart said you better have a good basket for the raffle.
Since you break things.
What raffle?
The basket raffle for our party next week.
Oh, I didn't know that was a raffle, but I'm not going to that.
You don't have to be.
You don't have to go to it and drop off your basket. Oh,
Okay.
Bart. Okay, so that's let's go back to the seller process there. So you can create your flyers, create a post on Instagram, enter your owner email address into AdWorks for your free week. You don't have to do this anymore. It's one of those things that I can pull out of there. You don't have to actually enter that in anymore. It automatically gets done. So your AdWorks ad will get, no, I think you still have to do your email. Double check and make sure. I don't remember whether or not it does, but I don't think you have to add the email address in for your client to get the email on a daily basis for the first week of your AdWorks ad when you get a listing. But it never hurts to go in and just check and just make sure that the email address is in there for your client. Create just listed postcards. You can do 100 radius or whatever. For me, this is mine. I do 100 radius around it. Schedule open house for the first weekend. The listing is live. Walk the neighborhood 2 days before the open house to invite neighbors. Walk the neighborhood the morning of the open house, inviting them in for a sneak preview. When it's under contract, I change the stats in the MLS. I accept the accepted contract documents in the SkySlope. Send the spuds and the insurance claims report to the selling agent. Walk the neighborhood. Prepare an appraisal packet. 1 week before closing, notify the seller and cooperating agent to have utilities changed. Organize receipts for any repairs that may be made. Final walkthrough. Order the sign down. Remove the lockbox. Send out just sold cards to the neighborhoods, and walk the neighborhood with flyers. So you're constantly trying to leverage your listing into other transactions. It works. It's the theory behind it that we have is that one listing should generate 3 transactions. It should generate that one transaction your listing is going to sell. It should also generate another buyer and another seller out of it. If you leverage it correctly, you should be able to leverage it for more business. We're always trying to leverage more business.
Hey, I found it. There was a tab for active and a tab for sold.
Yes.
I'm good.
Cool. All right. That's that seller process. That's all I think I'm going to go through today. I mean, we're at 2:23 and we got started a little bit late, but I think that gives us enough to go through today. But again, guys, if you go back into the VAC, I'm just going to jump back in here again and show you really quick where to go to get this stuff. If you go to resources, Document Center. It pulls open this tab on the side, go to Education, and go to Best Practices and the listing process. And in there you have all of this stuff that I just went over today, everything except for my seller processing checklist. But you've got all of that stuff is available in here to go through and look at, go through and review it on your own. If you have other questions about that, remember guys, I'm always available to do some one-on-ones. If you want to come in and spend a half an hour, an hour with me, just get with Michelle and schedule a one-on-one with me, and I'm more than happy to sit with you and go over some stuff. Michelle's shaking her head. She doesn't want to hear from you. She's busy eating something right now. She's eating a Kit Kat. All right. No, she just doesn't want to schedule. She doesn't. Yeah, she said it's not. She doesn't want to hear from you. She just doesn't want to schedule the appointment. All right. So that's it. I'm done presenting. So, anything else you guys want to talk about? All right, then we're done. I'm going to stop recording.